Welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper. Today I'm going to deal with a little bit of current events and talk a little bit about how this is going to be a problem, and we have a rare opportunity, I think, right now to really prepare ourselves for the future while we build a hedge of protection against inflation. And inflation is happening right now. It's going to continue, I believe, to get very much worse. Part of that is that I think 40% of all these papers, okay, essentially they're papers at this point, that are in existence were printed in the past year or so. You remember, you used to have things that said payable to the bearer, $20 worth of silver. Now it doesn't say anything. It just says it's legal tender for all debts, public and private. This is fiat, okay? There's nothing backing it anymore. And that's dangerous. And it's amazing too that at a time like this where people can just print trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars to take care of whatever spending that they have, then they're still going to take the little man and they're going to say, oh, you made some money here. Don't forget to pay your taxes, even though we could just print that out of nowhere. It's very, very interesting. It's not that I'm against being taxed on things. It's just the income tax and other things I believe are incredibly unconstitutional and wrong. But at the moment, some people are still getting these. They're getting these either A, from their work, or B, from various handouts. Some of the handouts you could opt out of at a time. But, you know, this is not going to retain its value. Eventually, this may be worth about the same thing as this, because that's going to be about all that it's good for. So I saw a statistic recently that was showing with the $1.25 minimum wage that people used to have. And this here shows that this was 1964. I did some research. I think it was 1965 when they actually made the federal minimum wage $1.25. And at that time, the quarters being printed were still 90% silver. They still had most of their value from being backed by something. And today, you know, that's worth almost 24 bucks on the street with the current price of silver per ounce. So somebody making minimum wage back in 1965 would have been making the today's equivalent of about $23 to $24. It's amazing. This is why we need real money. This is why it's good to have something with intrinsic value rather than just monopoly money, rather than just the land of make-believe pretend fiat currency. So if you've watched prices for a while on things, you'll see some stuff just kind of continues to go up. One of the most easy ones to kind of recognize at the moment would be, oh, gas prices have gone up. Other things are as well, and things are continuing to. So what do we have pertaining to this last year, right? We had a time where there was supply chain breakdowns and shortages, and people were fighting over it at the store. There is other ways to take care of that problem. And I would recommend you explore some options now, because in the future, it may happen again. But even if it doesn't, it's good to either A, not need such a thing, or B, have other plans in case you can't get it, you know. At this stage, because of the supply chain and because of everything else happening, it may be good to get extra things on hand. Those who fail to prepare to fail. Now, I'm not just going to stockpile everything I could possibly need for the entire, course of my existence. A, because I can't afford it. And B, I may not always be sitting right where I am now. So if I have it all sitting here and I leave, that's not going to be very much help. But while this has its value, or its perceived value, I should say, and while prices are still not hyperinflated, it would be good to invest it in something. Now, if you've got a ton of this right now, I would recommend putting in something that's going to hold value more long term. One would potentially be land. That would be a good thing. Just kicking around some ideas here, not really giving financial advice. I'm just saying, if you're going to hold on to a big stack of this forever, it's not going to work out well for you right now. Things like silver, that has some value. If this continues to kind of plummet in value, that's going to continue to go up. Personally, we have some land. Personally, we have some silver. Personally, we have some crypto. Personally, we have some sheep, rams and ewes, so they keep giving us a return on that investment. We have some chickens and roosters. You know, these are things to think about. But even if you're kind of more hand to mouth, first of all, I made a video a long time ago as things started happening last year. And I say, here's 10 things you should have done already. One thing I would recommend, if you're able to, cut out every debt you possibly can, because with debt comes interest. And interest is always going to take, you know, you're going to be applying something towards what you're trying to pay off, but something goes towards something else, which would be the interest. Get out of debt as much as you can. Then, I also want to suggest, you know, even if you're in debt, you're still going to need to eat, right? Even if you don't have enough to buy land or put aside in some sort of investment like a pile of silver or something, you're still going to need to eat, right? So what I would do is take things that right now have a certain price, okay? I'm not sure what a jar of salsa is at the store right now. I'd say a lot of times they're probably $2 to $4. This is just an example. I'm not saying live off of salsa. But if it's $2 or $3 right now, and inflation kicks in even more, in a little bit of time it could be $4 or $5. It could double and go up to $6. You really did good by buying it ahead of time. There's things that are pretty shelf stable. There's things that I'm not going to have to worry about for a while as far as having them expire that we're going to use in the near future. So what I'm doing right now is exchanging a portion of what I have financially extra or available, and I'm buying just some extra food stuff. One cool thing about this, like this salsa was discounted, so it was 98 cents. Not a bad price for a jar of salsa. And in times of need, you know, this is a sealed top jar. I have actually personally taken jars like this and hot water bath can things in them. I don't always need to use a brand new mason jar with a brand new lid and a brand new ring. It is possible, I'm not saying it's recommended, I'm just saying it's possible that if I buy this ahead of time and have it on hand and then eat it when it's worth even more, because I bought it when it was still cheaper before inflation kicked in even more, and then I save the jar, I can with it later, potentially. Would I do it? Yes. Yes, I would. Am I telling you should? No, I'm not. I'm just kicking it around as something you may not have thought of. It happens. It can happen. And guess what? A lot of times if something goes bad, you know it because it didn't seal. Or you open it and you're like, oh, that's not good anymore. Pertaining to canning and stuff, right now I don't make my own distilled white vinegar. That's something too that if the prices go up on everything, this is going to cost me more in the future. Now there's a lot of pickling and a lot of different canning and stuff that I use vinegar, and I got apple cider vinegar over there too. Okay, these I'm going to use. That's stuff that's going to come in handy, and if I have it on hand now, first of all, I'm saving money if inflation continues. Secondly, I have it on hand if the supply chain breaks down. So not only am I getting it cheaper than I will in the future, but I'm also having it in my possession where if there's just a bunch of it in some warehouse somewhere and trucks ain't moving, I ain't getting none. But here, I can walk around my property. I can get some. I can take the excess of the garden then, store it up, maybe put it in some jars. That's something that's important to me. Another thing is, you know, this is also discount, but lemon juice. Right now we don't grow our own citrus. I've got 2 trifoliate citruses outside. They have yet to produce fruit. They're still young trees. But this is 33 cents worth of lemon juice. Lemon juice is going to be rather handy to have on hand. It too can come in very handy with food preservation. It's going to be a good source of vitamin C. It's going to be able to be used in cooking. And again, since I'm not growing my own, I want to have it on hand. That way, since I'm not getting it off my own property, I already have it purchased in my possession. It's got a decent shelf life. I don't have to worry about that. And you'll see that some of this stuff too, besides just buying it now, I'm buying it at discount things. A lot of times you can get stuff at a discount store that isn't even expired. You know, this is some non-GMO corn. By buying in bulk, first of all, this is over 6.5 pounds. I'm getting a deal by buying in bulk. When I bought at a discount store, this was $6 worth of corn. You know, that's going to cost more in the future. It just is. That's how inflation works. Now I have it on hand, and I'm not going to go through, you know, every possible thing that I have here, but I will say there's things that are going to be good to have on hand to eat. There's things that are going to be good to have on hand to help you preserve other foods you may have. There's things that may be more of a resource than you're thinking of, because you may just be recycling that, recycling this after you eat it, and not having that jar. Sometimes that jar comes in handy, and even if you're not canning with it, this jar will still seal tight after I eat out of it. So if I clean it and I dry it, I can put dried herbs in here, I can put seeds in here. You know, for seed storage, the three main threats to your seeds are going to be sunlight, heat, and moisture. Well, if I put it somewhere that's dark and cool, this is going to keep the moisture out. Sometimes I'll even keep the little silica gel packets, the air removers, and I'll save those. And that way I've got them to add to stuff if I want to keep something dry and make sure that it's not getting affected by, moisture that could be in the environment. I do have ways of cleaning here on our property, and things that I can do like with the yucca plant, or things that I can do with witch hazel to make different astringents or soaps or other things. But right now I can get bottles of hand sanitizer like this. This happens to be almost 17 ounces. I got that for 33 cents. I did the same thing here with the soap. I got this soap for 33 cents. So here's about 66 cents worth of soap and hand sanitizer. Now we're not running through this like some people are right now, but there's times it's okay. It makes sense to sanitize your hands. There's times it makes sense to have it on hand. And something like this, that can work great as a fire starter too. Don't know if you've ever done it, but try it sometime. Give it a squirt on something, hit it with a lighter. You may not be able to see the flame immediately because it's going to be blue and barely there, but that can work as a fire starter too, hand sanitizer can. So if you have an opportunity, and even if you have just a little bit extra right now, if you have the space to store something, I would highly recommend exchanging some of this right now for some things that you're going to buy anyway. This may cost more in the future. I believe it's going to. Therefore, while this is still retaining some of its perceived value, if I can exchange it for these things, I'll need less of this because I already turned it into stuff that's going to be a blessing for my future, when I get there. I will eat through salsa. We will eat through corn. We will use soap, and we will use vinegar. We'll use toilet paper. Nothing wrong with having some extra on hand. So as a hedge of protection, if you are not someone who is a prepper, okay, and I don't exactly like that label because of the stereotypes, it's, pressed to the extreme. I got a funny video with Mr. Zach Bauer where we kind of start off on a lighter note and then talk about some of this, about, laughing at preppers because it's pushed to such an extreme. But apart from the stereotype, to mock somebody for being prepared is insane. Because when you're starving to death, or you're in some bad situation and they have their bellies full and they're warm and they're doing whatever else, you're not going to be laughing then. This is all stuff that makes sense. I know some people who go and they just buy a year's supply of all sorts of stuff. They know what their family's going to use in a year, so they'll just go buy a year's supply once a year. They've been doing it for years, and they'll just have it on hand. I tell you what, with as often as some people like to go shopping, it makes a lot of sense just to go once in a while, get all the things you already know that you're going to need and you're going to use. I just saw this, so I thought I'd mention it too, but sometimes different cooking oils, we like olive oil best of all, but I don't have my own olives, I don't have my own olive press. I'm not making my own oil on my property, but there's stuff it can be used for. Same with coconut oil. It's got a great shelf life. I don't have to worry about it just going bad. I can store it properly and have it for years. Well, if it's going to cost me twice as much in a year, and I had some extra right now, I would have rather applied that extra right now, so that way when I get to the future a year from now, if it's even still available on the shelves, at least I don't have to pay the extreme price because it should still be available on my shelf at home. I understand this wasn't exactly a nice happy homestead family video like some of ours are. I plan on having more of those out in the future, but I thought this would be good to mention. I thought it'd be good to help some people think and consider if they're not already. I know a lot of people are waking up to a lot of things. A lot of people are thinking in a different kind of category or mindset than they're used to, and that's good. It's going to help us prepare for the future, but if you've got some, think about it. And be blessed. Papa out.